Chapter 1. The New House. Ajwoa's wedding to Kojo was the talk of the neighborhood, a vibrant celebration of colors, silk kende's splendid, and infectious high-life music in the suburbs of Accra. She had finally secured the life she dreamed of, a stunning home, financial stability, and a respected husband. But her victory was marred by 8-year-old Kwame. The boy, dressed impeccably in a white linen suit, glared at her throughout the ceremony, his eyes hard and unwavering like polished obsidian. Now, weeks later, the tension was a physical presence in the elegant, airy house. Ajwoa tried everything. She cooked his favorite jollof rice with smoked turkey, bought him the latest Chelsea football jersey, and even sat patiently through a lengthy lesson on Ghanaian history he clearly recited only to show off his late mother's teaching. Yet Kwame met every overture with a stony silence or a thinly veiled sneer. "He just needs time, Ajwoa. Abba was his everything," Kojo would say, distracted, adjusting his expensive watch. Abba, Kojo's first wife, had died tragically 2 years prior, and her portrait, serene and beautiful, hung prominently in the living room, silently challenging Ajwoa's authority. One afternoon, Ajwoa found Kwame scratching out her face in a family photo, replacing it with a crude, scribbled thundercloud. The message was clear: she was not welcome, and she was certainly not his mother. Ajwoa knew she had to break through this wall, not just for the sake of peace, but to solidify her future. She had endured too much to let a child dictate her place in this grand house.
Chapter 2. Frustration and a Secret. Odoa's patience was wearing thin, curdling into a dangerous resolve. The initial joy of being Mrs. Kojo Mensah was overshadowed by the daily battle for dominance with a third grader. One humid evening, while searching for a spare duvet, Odoa found a small, locked wooden box hidden beneath Abba's side of the mahogany bed. Curiosity overpowered her scruples. She found the key taped inside Kojo's old wedding band box. Inside the wooden chest lay an old, tarnished locket and a single faded medical document bearing an unusual name and an unusual date, a date several months before Kojo and Abba's wedding. The document was a patient discharge form for Odoa Asari following a delivery. Odoa froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. Odoa Asari was her maiden name. Her confusion mounted as she saw the listed patient's age and the notes referencing a difficult birth. Before she could reconcile the name with the date, the door creaked open. Kwame stood there, backlit by the hallway light, his face pale and eyes wide, witnessing her transgression. He didn't scream or cry. He simply fixed her with a look of pure, cold contempt. "You are just a thief," he whispered, his voice shaking with unexpected maturity. He snatched the locket and the paper from her trembling hands and ran, locking himself in his room. Odoa knew then that the boy's rejection wasn't random. It was tied to the secrets Kojo and the late Abba had carefully buried.
Chapter 3. The Confrontation. The next morning, Ajwoa demanded answers. She presented Kojo with the remaining contents of the box, a silver rattle and a tiny knitted booty, items too old to belong to Kwame, who was born well into Kojo and Abba's marriage. Kojo was furious, not at Ajwa snooping, but at the discovery. He nervously swept the objects into a drawer, denying any deeper meaning. "Nonsense, just old baby items from Abba's sister," he snapped, refusing to meet her gaze. His reaction was a confirmation, not a denial. Ajwa remembered a specific detail from the hospital forms she'd glimpsed, a reference to a unique birthmark on the infant's left ankle. She cornered Kwame later that day. She did not raise her voice. Instead, she spoke gently, appealing to his intelligence. "Kwame, show me your left ankle." He refused, retreating to his usual hostile silence. Ajwa insisted, her voice trembling with emotion she couldn't control. Finally, driven by fear or perhaps an innate curiosity, the boy grudgingly pulled up his sock. There, precisely where the document described, was the tiny, clover-shaped mark. Ajwa felt a profound, chilling sense of realization. Chapter 4. The Scandalous Revelation. Adwa confronted Kojo that night on the patio, the scent of jasmine heavy in the evening air. She laid the forged records before him, the digital proof of the erasure and the faded patient discharge form. Kojo initially roared, dismissing her as delusional, but Adwa's calm, irrefutable evidence broke him. He finally collapsed into a chair, his face a mask of shame and defeat. The scandalous truth poured out. Adwa was not Kwame's stepmother. She was his biological mother. Years ago, Adwa and Kojo had been involved in a passionate, secret affair while Kojo was engaged to Abba. When Adwa became pregnant, the powerful Mensa family, desperate to secure their legacy and protect the image of the esteemed Kojo and the infertile Abba, engineered a scheme. Kojo convinced a young, overwhelmed Adwa to give up the baby immediately after birth. Abba would adopt the boy, raise him as her own, and crucially, Adwa was paid a substantial sum and sent away. Kojo, however, made a cold, calculated promise. If Abba were ever to pass away, he would marry Adwa, giving her back her son and securing his own secrets. Adwa, desperate and emotionally shattered, agreed, biding her time until Abba's untimely death 2 years ago. The boy's rejection, Kojo confessed, wasn't about the stepmother. It was about his late mother Abba telling him a carefully edited truth, that Adwa was a wicked woman who wanted to steal him.
Chapter 5. The Acceptance. Kojo's devastating confession was complete, but they weren't alone. Kwame, unable to sleep, had crept to the open patio door, drawn by the raised voices. He stood there, silent, his small body rigid, processing the shattered foundation of his life. Kojo, panicking, reached for the boy, but Kwame recoiled. Adwa, however, saw her chance, her true goal, not the marriage, but the acceptance of her son, finally within reach. She dismissed Kojo with a single, furious gesture and knelt before Kwame. The moonlight catching the tears in her eyes. "He lied. Your father lied to both of us," she whispered, her voice choked with years of suppressed love and regret. She gently pulled up the cuff of his pajamas, tracing the clover-shaped mark on his ankle. "This mark, I have the exact same one. It's a gift only we share." She confessed everything: the youth, the fear, the family pressure, and the agonizing regret of the separation. The initial shock on Kwame's face dissolved slowly, replaced by a deep, heartbreaking comprehension. He looked from the disgraced Kojo to Adwa, finally understanding the source of his profound, confusing animosity. The scandalous marriage was already ruined. The trust was gone. But Adwa had achieved the unspoken, necessary goal the title hinted at. Kwame leaned into her, burying his face in her shoulder. "Ma," he whispered, a sound Adwa had waited 8 years to hear, accepting her not as the unwanted wife, but as the mother who had come back for him.